Hi, Chester Elton here with my weekend book club. We've decided to go live on this and do it about every 3 weeks or so because reading a book a week was really getting tough. I've got 3 really good recommendations for you here today that I think you're going to really enjoy. And I'm wearing my special Tilly hat. Now, there is a story behind the hat, and it has to do with the first book by John Strelecky, The Big Five for Life. Now, this is a book that John, self-published. He sold over 1 million copies, and he's an adventurer. He's a fellow traveler. If you get to know John, he's really just this remarkably engaging and personal guy. And we've become friends through our leadership group. Well, he wears these Tilly hats. And the great thing about a Tilly hat is it's guaranteed for life. So he does a lot of backpacking and a lot of traveling in South America and Europe and so on. He loves to travel. And he said, I got a hold of this hat. It's not inexpensive. Although on Amazon, I got a bit of a discount. It was about $60, $65. Normally around $100. He said it was designed by a traveler. So it's got the vent and you can flatten it down. It's easy to pack and, it's guaranteed for life. So he tells the story that, he'd been wearing it for a while and some stitches had come loose. So he said, well, I'm going to take him up on the, if you wear it out, we fix it. So he gets a hold of them and he lets them know what the deal is. Customer service is great. They said, sure, send it back to us and send it priority mail, right? So it was like $8.95, something like that. So he says, great. So he sends it back to him. A couple weeks later, it comes back. It's all fixed. And this is the part I love. And there was a check for $8.95 for shipping. So he says, now I'm a customer for life. Well, he explained it to me, and my wife and I like to go up to the Adirondacks in upstate New York, and we're going there this week. And I said, well, I got to get a Tilly hat. I got to tell you, they're super comfortable. The story is great, and it ties in perfectly to my first book recommendation, which is The Big Five for Life by John Strelecky. Now, John has this wonderful challenge. He says, look, think of what the 5 things are that you really want to accomplish in life, right? And it can be like crazy. Like it can be travel the world. It can be develop deeper relationships with friends and family. It can amplify the work you're doing, whether it's, managing at work or writing a book or whatever. He's even got one that he wants to write a top 10 pop culture song because he loves the way music brings people together. And you put that down, and then you start to work towards those big 5. Now, the big 5, for those of you that have traveled to Africa, and if you have, raise your hand, right? The big 5, when you go on a safari in Africa, it's the big 5 animals. Like if you see a water buffalo, that's great. Or an elephant, it's even better. Or a rhino, and then a lion. And then if you add the leopard, which can be the hardest one, those are the big 5. So from his travels, he says, take the big 5 of life. It could be a personal, a professional, an aspirational. I've got a friend where his big 5 is he wants to buy the Boston Celtics basketball team. And he says, look, I don't know that I'll ever be in a position. The idea that he could buy his childhood team is one of his big 5. And then you work towards it. Well, what you'll love about this book is it's told in a story. And it's a story that you follow. Well, one of the challenges he gives, and I've used this already, he says, think about museums. As you travel, you think about museums. If you were to build a museum of your life, what would that look like? What parts of the museums would you spend a lot of time in? What parts of the museums would you be really proud of? If you were the tour guide, right? What rooms would you want to skip over? And if you build this museum in your mind around the 5 big things that you want to do in life, the adventurer, the traveler, right? That's the whole idea of the big 5 for life. By the way, hello from Durham, North Carolina, Adonani. We love our book club community. That we do it because people will tune in. So Adonani, and I hope I said that right. Thanks for joining. And I hope that you love books as much as we do. Well, this book club is our weekend book club, and it's all around leading with gratitude. You'll notice my stack of books. That's my book right there. Leading with Gratitude. We'll never promote our book other than it's a great book. You should buy it. And my co-author, Adrian Gostick, and I, of course, we love books. So our second book, and it's still good that I've got my cap on because it is written by one of my dear friends, and he's an Aussie. And this reminds me of an Aussie hat. Kirkab from Algeria, welcome to the book club community. Delighted you're here. Thanks for joining us. Oh, and from Montreal, Marc Ayapi. Ça va bien. I'm Canadian, and trust me, that's all I know. So here we go. This one is called Tribe Culture, How It Shaped WD-40. Now, if you've ever seen me present virtually, I love talking about WD-40. Everybody's got a can. WD-40 stands for Water Displacement 40th Formula. And what's really interesting is Garry Ridge, this delightful Aussie who now lives in San Diego, he has created the most remarkable culture at his company. He calls it a tribal culture. Here's Linda from Saudi Arabia. Thanks for joining, Linda. Welcome to our weekend club. So this tribal culture is really interesting. He says, in a culture, teamwork or, teammates or associates or coworkers, it doesn't cut it. When you're part of a tribe, you look out for each other. You work together. You protect each other. You celebrate together, right? Well, WD-40 has a 99% engagement score. 99% of their employees feel great about coming to work, and 99% of their employees are glad and happy to tell their neighbors that they work at WD-40. So Leo Matthews has joined us from London. Thanks for joining, Leo. Love that you're part of the club. The WD-40, Water Displacement 40th Formula, he goes, we don't have mistakes. We have learning moments. Right? Learning moments. And he's created this culture of innovation that allows people to not be afraid to take risks, right? Now, he talks about we're not just a lubrication company. We create memories. And I'll tell you a quick story that's in the book. He said, a guy, and this is a COVID story, actually. It's not in the book. He said, he wanted to do some cycling. And so he pulled out his bicycle and was dusting it off. Takes his daughter down to the hardware store because he needs some WD-40 to clean the chain. He brings her back and he says, honey, what do you think we just did? She said, oh, well, we went to buy some oil. He said, no, we're creating a memory. And so he takes the rag and he sprays the WD-40 on. Now, if you smell WD-40, it's a very distinctive smell. And when you think about your memories, your olfactory memories are really key, right? What did it smell like? Brings back memories. He said, smell this. She goes, now, every time you smell that, you'll remember the time you had with your dad fixing his bike. We create these wonderful family memories. Wonderful. So it's not a thick book. It's 10 books on Amazon. Tribe Culture, How It Shaped WD-40. Remarkable Culture by Garry Ridge. Highly recommend it. You can read it in an hour. You'll study it for a lifetime. Book number 2. Book number 3. Hey, we've got some more people from Quebec. Hélène Bouchard. And we've got Said. We got a couple from Portugal. Somebody jumped in, which was great. Let me just go down the list here. Ooh, Nadia from Bangalore. Love that. Thanks for joining the group. And Lucas from Argentina. My grandson is named Lucas Chester. So delighted to have you on the broadcast. So for those of you that joined a little late, first one is Big Five for Life, John Strelecky. Really interesting storytelling book on creating the big five in your life and pursuing that dream. And then on the business side, we've got the tribal culture, Garry Ridge at WD-40. Okay, third book. I love all three of these books for different reasons. This book just came out. Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk. It's a great title, Think Like a Monk. So Jay grew up in London. He's Asian by descent. He's Indian, right? He says, in my family, we were all high achievers. We had three options with our lives. We could become a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. He says, so I go to business school and, he wasn't great in high school, but I'm getting better grades. And there is this presentation by a Buddhist monk at the university. And it's really captivating. And so he comes up to the monk and he says, I want to learn more. He says, well, I've got a bunch of speaking engagements over the next few weeks. Why don't you just follow me around? And every time you hear something, you'll learn more. Well, he really starts to adopt this philosophy of being a monk. In Orlando, I don't know how many monks there are in San Jose, Costa Rica, but I've been to San Jose, and it is gorgeous. If you're going to meditate, go to San Jose, Costa Rica. So we got some Ticos on the call. We got a good contingent from Quebec and Bangalore. Thanks for all joining. Think like a monk. Now, here's the cool thing. You can be Buddhist and you don't have to give up like if you're Catholic or if you're Muslim or whatever. It's a philosophy on how to think and breathe. And so anyway, so to the horror of his mom and dad, he graduates in economics and decides to go to an ashram in India and learn how to become a Buddhist monk. Well, the lessons in here are remarkable on just keeping life in perspective. You know, as a monk, they have like no possessions. You have 2 robes, one to wear and one to wash, right? One to wear and one to wash. Oh, and I love what Nadia is saying too. In India, the culture of a doctor or engineering or nothing, right? Well, you can adopt this think like a monk into being a doctor or an engineer or an author or a manager, right? It's really interesting to me. And it's one of these books you don't read fast. You read the chapter and then it really makes you think, and I'll give you some of the chapter titles because they're really revealing. I am what I think I am, which is really interesting. Controlling your thoughts. He talks about limiting your digital engagement and taking time to just ponder. Here's Jonathan piping in. I like the title. I know I love good titles. Think like a monk. How do you think like a monk? Like, how do you find that inner peace? I'll tell you one of the stories in here that I found fascinating. So he's at this ashram in India, right? And he's already, late 20s. And he says, I'm watching this 10-year-old monk teach 5-year-old monks. And he's thinking, 10 years old, what could you possibly teach anybody? So he comes up to him later and he says, what did you teach the new monks? And he said, I taught them the most important thing you can learn. So now his interest is peaked. What is the most important thing you can learn as a monk? And he said, how to breathe. Think about that. He said, life begins with your first breath and it ends with your last breath. Breathing is what keeps us alive minute to minute. And the way you control your breathing controls so much about your mood, your attitude. He says, think about when you're angry, how do you breathe? When you're excited, how do you breathe? When you're frightened, how do you breathe? When you're happy, how do you breathe? How do you control your breathing? So many lessons in here. The next chapter, which I really enjoyed, was negativity. The evil king goes hungry. Buddhism has these wonderful stories about kingdoms and kings and monks. And how do you control the negativity in your mind? It talks about the evil king wanting to overthrow the good king. And the way he's going to do it is he's going to burn down the palace. And so what he does is he takes this hot coal that he's going to sneak into the palace and he puts it in his robes. Well, of course, his robes catch fire and the evil king is undone by the evil he's trying to commit by carrying around this hot coal. And Jay Shetty talks about, what are you carrying around that is so destructive that you can just let go? Anyway, on and on. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying reading this book. And just look at that face. I mean, that's the kind of happiness we all want, right? Well, listen, I don't want to take too much of your time. It's my weekend book club. We'll create a link for all of you, Lucas in Argentina and Josie in Portugal and from all over the world. Thanks for joining. India, Pedro from Mexico. Mucho gusto. Listen, there's one thing you can control is what you feed your mind. And whether it's think like a monk, tribal culture, or the big 5 for life, my friend, John Strelecky, I can't tell you how engaging and how positive a good book is. So I'm not saying you should buy all three of these books. Pick the one you like. Maybe you're trying to figure out what are your big five in life. Or maybe at work, you really want to create this tribal culture where people are really excited to come to work. And maybe it's just you want to learn how to breathe with Think Like a Monk. My 3 recommendations. Look, I hope you'll follow me on LinkedIn. We've got some great stuff. We've got our wonderful newsletter that just came out today. It's the Gratitude Journal. We have our Gratitude Live, leading with Gratitude Live every Friday at 1 o'clock. We've had some amazing guests. Hope you'll join us there. And you know what? If you're looking for a life of gratitude, the roadmap is in our book, Leading with Gratitude. I hope you'll take a look. So follow us on LinkedIn. Keep reading. Have a great weekend. We'll see you in a couple of weeks with 3 more great books that I hope you'll enjoy that'll make your life a little better, a little more engaging, feed your brain. And you know what? If you like the book, give it a nice write-up on Amazon. A little random act of kindness, give the book to a friend. If you like it that much, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Well, I hope after this, we all feel a little more grateful. We all feel a little more kind, a little more patient, and a little more forgiving. And a little smarter because we read a good book. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Have a great weekend. Grateful for your time.